Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday. This has been kind of a quick week, although it's been, a pretty quiet week too. Even after, like the CPI, like the one thing that happened this week, and the rest of it has been pretty quiet. But the market is already kind of moving today, so it looks like we may have a busy day. I'm not 100% sure everything that's going on, but I am seeing some fears about banks and so forth again today, and the treasuries are kind of moving up. There's some just come over here to the charts. You can see there's been some wild volatility here in the last 20 minutes or so in the treasuries. So we'll have to look around a little bit and acquaint ourselves with what's going on in the market and get ourselves into the flow. Let's come over and look at the larger charts here, though. You can see that the treasuries are extending their move up from the CPI yesterday, and in about 5 minutes we're going to get PPI, right? Well, over in the S&P 500, man, it was another one of those days. Is like big move up, big move down, big move back, right? So those 0-day to expiration options are just causing all sorts of crazy nonsensical swings over there. Oil's still just kind of chilling in a range. I mean, makes sense that they would maybe find some balance after this huge downside move, though, right? Gold and silver, they've had their moments and everything. I mean, there was a point yesterday at which silver was looking really great, right? But they've since moderated. And then we got copper. All of the data coming out of China is showing that they've exported more than they expected and aren't using as much as they expected. And like, China demand is not what we thought it would be. Concerns about global growth. Copper continues to be this one that, like, I'm a little bit concerned about, right? It kind of suggests to me that things are not necessarily so great out there. And we've got, well, let's look at the dollar first. Okay, so the dollar retracing all of those losses after the CPI number and moving higher. And the Bitcoin, I guess the government moved some coins or something, because, man, Bitcoin just took like a huge dip. But I mean, we've had like a ton of those lately, right? Here. It's like, it seems like it's unable to get below 25,000, so. I'm not sure if I'm more or less sick than I was yesterday, but I think I'm still sick. So this will be tough because there might be some opportunities. I may have to do something here in my compromised state. We'll see. So something that is and this may be something that we end up talking about a lot today. I mean, it's an interesting subject and one that I'm sure people of this stream are interested in. Couple of the major Wall Street quant firms like Jane Street have decided to exit cryptocurrency entirely. That one's super interesting. So remember, oh no, wait. Let's not get too much. We got the news coming, right? So let's do the news and then we'll pick that one back up after the news. Let's see here. For US core PPI month over month, we're looking for a reading of spot 2. So that's the big number I'm going to be looking at. Spot 2 is like really low, actually. Okay, here we go. Oh, it's in line. Big jump again. Well, I probably could have tried hitting that there, but I think that my data over here in the micro treasury may be delayed. So, man, can you believe 3.35 now? Wow. 3.535 just seems like it's so crazy. Okay, now the headline PPI number was spot 2 versus an expected spot 3. But the core PPI was spot 2. So it is a little bit less than anticipated, and so we are seeing markets go up. I'm a little bit skeptical about treasuries being able to continue extending off of this though. I don't know, like the one spot that I could see being like a magnet in terms of like volume is a 116 even, but that's too far away. That one probably doesn't factor in. We got this little gap here between 6 and 10. So let's come over. Okay, US inflation renaissance delayed while China recovery stutters. Future slide is bank sell-off returns with PacWest tumble. Well, and that PPI just kind of further pushes us up, right? Let's come over to the charts and see what's going on with PacWest actually. Oh, I forgot about jobless claims. Jobless claims 264 versus 245. They continue to be a little bit higher. You know what? Okay, PacWest didn't do very well yesterday. There was a bit of a tumble overnight. It's trying to push back up. Oh wait, that's the KRE. Wait, how come it didn't add PacWest? Oh. New pane. There we go. Okay, so you can see PacWest kind of pulling the index down. But I don't know if that's like as big of a deal as the headline kind of suggests. So the curious thing here will be, okay, so for the treasuries, everything that I'm seeing, like all of the fundamentals at least, and the flows that I would expect to see off of those fundamentals suggests long, but we've already had quite a bit of that flow come in long and so forth. So I don't know if they can really extend that one. And I'm not really seeing the flow here either yet. So that one I'm unsure about. If it is really actually going to make like a move here, but the S&P 500 could be in a place where it could make a decision, right? Because those things are not necessarily explicitly bullish or bearish the S&P 500. For instance, while U.S. initial jobless claim slightly higher than expected, inflation less than expected. Hey NASDAQ, how are you doing? Yeah, you're here first. What's going on? On time today, you taking any trades today? Anyways, I could see the E-minis taking these both ways, although I suspect it could be a risk off flow and that the E-mini sells. If we do get the risk off flow, then that might in turn create some volume over here in treasuries that we can work with. Oh, you did take a trade. Well, that's good. I'm at work now. Class starts in 30 minutes. Wow, so you did something already, and oh, that's good. Don't let me distract you from school too much. This is over here in the ZN. This is a tight range. There's a big old order there at 10. I'm thinking let's try a sim trade here. We'll try and use this big order. I don't know if I'll get filled at the 10 half, so I'll. I don't give an F about class. I hate it. Ah, dude, you gotta take the class seriously, man. That sounds pretty typically autistic. Right. Oh, wait, what? Okay. Well, it sure is ticking around a lot. Kind of looks like it's just sliding around on correlations. The dollar hasn't quite decided what it's going to do yet. Good pop on Zian? from the news, if that's what you mean. I don't know. I've played this tight little range pretty good so far, haven't I? But there really is a big risk that big order at 10 fails and this just goes goodish, right? Whenever I do this, like the thing that always goes through my head when I'm doing this sort of a trade is like when you're doing it, you really don't, it really is not obvious how risky it is. It's not obvious how risky it is. And I'm sure that any noob that comes in here looks at it and thinks I'm a trading god when they see me do something like that. But it's actually quite risky what I'm doing at the moment. Oh, look, the big order at 10 pulled and they traded 2051 at 10 half. See, it's gonna go and give you the exact example of what I'm worried about here for you. Well, I'm not too concerned yet. They're still not trading the 10. It's like performing surgery, eyes closed. I mean, look, it worked out for me. See, because what happens is they're forming a liquidity hole here. Very clearly forming a liquidity hole here. But at the same time, I am kind of making a larger bet on which way it will resolve once this kind of fills itself in and they decide to go for somewhere, right? So I should be able to get a couple of times across this range. But if I'm wrong about the overall direction of this thing, you know, I'm going to be stuck underwater on multiple contracts. Whereas if this goes, I may only have 1 or 2 contracts on, right? So it's very risky. So I'm reading about PacWest here. New filing from regional bank PacWest shows that deposits declined about 9.5% during the week ending May 5th, with the majority of that decline occurring on May 4th and 5th after the news reports on the afternoon of May 3rd. PacWest shares are down 28% in the pre-market. Is it those pesky short sellers manipulating the market once again? So when we started seeing some of this stuff, like I would say last week and in a couple of other places, it really did seem like this short selling would come out of nowhere and it'd come short. And so I suggested the theory that there is some sort of a reflexivity trade going on here. Now, I do think that may be one thing that is kind of at play, is that there probably are some guys out there coming in and trying to short these really hard in the hopes that it pushing down kind of creates other things to move and you get a trade like that. But the data does not seem to support that. The data seems to support that the people that are like bailing out of these regional banks are like long-term, long-only funds. So that, you know, because some people were talking about like maybe they need to do a short seller ban or something like that. It's probably not going to help. It's probably not going to help. And in this case, in particular with PacWest, I feel like that the price is handling handling this about as well as you could possibly expect. Like, you're getting the best case scenario so far. So like, if it doesn't work out, I don't think you can come in and say that like, well, it only happened because of this, you know, market did this and it wasn't actually a fair. No, I think it was a fair thing. So the question just remains as to whether or not we should really be concerned about it or not, because it's something that like the market is like super concerned about, and then they forget about it and market rallies in the face of it, right? Yeah. Well, I tell you what, this liquidity hole that we're seeing here in ZN is really, really tight given the news and everything else. I'm a little suspicious, to be honest. A little suspicious of it. And I mean, we usually don't do something until like 7:05, 7:10, right? So is it really going to sit in that range the whole time? Okay, so are we going to have Kashkari speak? Kashkari is going to be speaking, and then Waller is going to be speaking 30 minutes or at 10:15, not 30 minutes. It's actually quite a bit further after that. And we have a 30-year bond auction today. Okay. And there will be a Q&A for that. Jeez. Last week, California Governor Newsom announced a state initiative for citizens to report disfavored speech, or rather, non-criminal hate incidents that they see online. And California's Civil Rights Department, or CRD, I bet you that's an acronym that you're going to see a lot, invites citizens to speculate about the motive of the perpetrator. So now remind readers. In a statement, Newsom's office said the legislation was in direct response to the rise in reported hate crimes in California, which in recent years reached their highest levels since 2001, jumping almost 33% from 2020 to 2021. Indeed, criminal complaints of hate crimes rose significantly, not just 33% between 2020 and 2021, but also 80% from 2012 to 2021. But convictions of hate crimes have been flat. That's, dude, don't even. Oh my gosh. I saw this video yesterday where this lady on TikTok was making fun of leftists. They're like, okay, what do we, how should we go about doing this? And then it's like, oh, let's gaslight them and do all of these sorts of things. And then she's like, hey, I heard they used to do this thing in communist China that was really good at manipulating and controlling people called struggle sessions. Maybe we should try that too. And I'm like, stop! Shut up! Don't give them ideas! Oh, don't give them ideas. So I go and I start reading on Wikipedia about struggle sessions, man. Oh, it's so disturbing to me, and I can totally see it happening. I can totally see the struggle session thing happening, like not at a government level necessarily, but I can totally see it being like, you're at woke tech company and you know they have a small meeting, and then they call you up front in the small meeting and make accusations against you about how you're a hateful Republican that hates gay people and all this stuff. I'm a little concerned now that y'all talking about struggle sessions, that's like the next thing coming. and it has me like it's like just hearing the word gets me a little bit triggered. Like the whole concept sounds terrifying to me. I haven't heard of an instance of something like a struggle session that was widely reported that people referred to as a struggle session. I bet you that there probably have been incidents that you could probably compare to that, but it hasn't become like a word that I read in the media often. You know what I mean? So I really don't want to see this as a word I start reading in the media often, right? It's kind of funny to me that in California you're seeing the increase in these supposed hate incidents when California attempts to be so liberal on everything, right? I was reading this story. It was like the title was elites and manufacture hate crisis as pretext for mass spying, blacklists, and censorship. But it was actually posted by Michael Schellenberger via public Substack. They didn't post like the whole story. So like, I would really love to see the evidence that like elites are intentionally pushing this to divide people so that they can make more money, right? Because that's one of the things I've seen a lot of lately. In order to be woke, you have to come out in a struggle session. Come out in a public session and denounce racism and stuff. Ugh. The whole thing is messed up. It's just the thing that really bothers me the most about this whole woke ideology is that it's not like a real moral framework, right? Like they want to come out and present themselves as more moral people, but like what they are deciding is moral and not moral is not based on some framework about what makes something good and evil and where does this particular behavior or incident that we're talking about fit within that framework or anything like that. What is good or evil is entirely dependent on whether it helps the woke movement or not, right? So they think it's perfectly fine to just make shit up, right? They think it's perfectly moral to lie. It's the ends just, it really is like a communist Maoist kind of ideology. Ooh, look at that. On that tick up, there was a big order that kind of chased it, and somebody did sell into it. So there's some reloading at the top of this range now. That's kind of like a semi level break setup there. This might be the thing we're looking for. I wouldn't go in so far as to say it's official or pushed by the elites, but we're certainly doing it to ourselves. Maybe. It is, I felt like I was one of the first people to notice it, but I am now definitely seeing it very widely that, like, we have a lot of really pressing policy issues that we need to solve in America, and everybody is more concerned right now with what bathroom you go in. It is a little difficult. And I think the place where I saw this that was interesting, because like I said, it's just a narrative that I'm seeing, and it's like it is kind of a conspiracy theory, right? And so it's like, what evidence do you have to support it? But the person that I saw that was pushing this, that I think presented it really interestingly, was he pointed out that when the West goes into like poor countries, like in Africa, and they're giving support to people in Africa and stuff, whereas the Chinese are doing, deals with them to improve their military and their infrastructure and all sorts of investments like that, the US comes in and invests in woke ventures. And like, well, why is that? And he was saying, well, because they want to divide people in Africa the same way that they divide people in the United States, so that they can take advantage and make money off of it. Except for that, people in Africa haven't really been exposed to that sort of stuff and like instantly reject it. I'm not saying I'm agreeing with him. I just thought it was a kind of a shift in the ideology on the far right, or I wouldn't even call it a shift, but like kind of an evolution of it that I thought was very curious. Nah, I've not seen anything that is like a struggle session though. I don't think that struggle sessions have come yet. I'm looking for news reports that when I go to hot air, they say, struggle session at Google or whatever the deal is, right? Because it seems like it could be coming. But there was another shift that I'm seeing in the right this week. And I think that this one was coming from Tim Pool. So like, Tim Pool basically said that he's like all aboard the Trump train again, basically. And it wasn't like he said, oh, I think that Trump will be a really great president. I want this policy and this policy, or whatever the deal was. No, it was, I'm so sick of the deep state policymakers, people that have been, like Fauci, that have been in these government positions for decades and decades, and especially within the intelligence agencies. And they have we have pretty hard evidence now that these agencies have been doing things to explicitly help one party at the expense of the other. And he just wants them gone. And so the reason that he wants Trump back in is because he thinks that Trump wants revenge. He thinks that Trump is going to come in and he's just going to lay waste to all government agencies. He's just going to fire everybody. Whoosh. Which is, I don't think that that's going to be very good for like helping run the country and everything else like that. But there is a problem there. There is a problem there. But to see that the right wing has basically given up on policy solutions and thinks that the only way forward is to just come in and lay waste to the DC establishment and then try and pick up the pieces afterwards is like I think that people were always kind of saying that, but that is now becoming the dominant factor, the dominant narrative among that group of people is like a big shift, I think. Yeah, I am a highly informed news observer, and I have never seen any reports of anything akin to what I would call a struggle session. And when I start seeing people use the word, I'm telling you, there's a high chance that you're gonna start seeing it in news media. Would you deny the Holocaust in Germany until you had the smelted piles of corpses? Well, I mean, on that one, my understanding of it was that like they kind of didn't really know. Like there was there was evidence that was going on, but like the West didn't really put the pieces together until they got there, right? Nah, I understand what you mean. Well, look, I have a different responsibility compared to most people, right? You know, if the average person wants to come in and believe that like the government faked the moon landing or something like that, I mean, I guess that's their prerogative. From a public policy perspective, it would be preferable that people's understanding from things come from fact and truth, right? And I believe that decisions will be better if they are made from a position of fact and truth. Okay. But how much is it actually going to harm if the average person thinks that the moon landing was fake? I don't know. But from my perspective, where I have an audience of a couple hundred people, and what I say could have an impact on how they view the world, I have to be very careful and conscious about what I say and how I present things, right? And so, yeah, I'm not going to say that something is happening unless I have direct evidence that it is, right? Because if I go in and I say, well, they're having struggle sessions over in the leftists, and they're not, right? That alone could lead to struggle sessions happening, right? so I have a theory about this, actually. I call it Seth Simpson's theory. So The Simpsons has many instances where The Simpsons made an episode about a certain thing happening, and then later on, something in real life very similar to what was on The Simpsons ends up happening and playing out. For instance, there was an episode about the media getting on board on spreading panic over a viral outbreak, right? And so people are like, it is The Simpsons time travelers and things like that. And then people are like, well, you know, if you have so many episodes, it's, you know, eventually you're going to end up being right about certain things and stuff like that. And so then people have gone back and done like actual like statistical studies showing this, and they've been like, here's The Simpsons and here's other shows like Star Trek that have almost as many episodes. And here's how many correct predictions The Simpsons have made compared to others. And it's just like ridiculous. How is it that The Simpsons has so many correct predictions? And of course, we're all assuming here that like time travel is not actually a thing, right? So here's my theory. The Simpsons episodes are causing these things to happen, which is to say, enough people see that thing happen, it gets embedded in their minds, and then as things go along and you start to get into a situation that's maybe kind of sort of similar, and they start behaving in a way in which they saw in the episode. And so the airing of the episode and the quote unquote prediction that they've made actually ends up making the thing happen, right? And I've seen cases like this where it's very clear to me that this happened. So like most of the no, there's been many that they happened well before anything like it happened. Because like people have done like real studies on this. They're like, here's all of the Simpsons episodes, and there's like 317 correct predictions or something. Like it's crazy. Okay. So I saw this I think that this was exactly what was happening with like this is I think a lot of what happened with identitarians in Europe was like a bunch of people in Europe were just concerned that a large portion of the migrants that were coming into their countries did not seem to hold the same values, and they were concerned that, you know, the government and the laws were going to go in like a more authoritarian way and that they were going to lose rights. And everybody was like calling these people, these identitarians, racists, right? And I don't think that being concerned about the culture of your area being changed is necessarily racist. Okay, it's wrong to engineer a demographic or cultural change like that. Okay, and can you prove that that's what they're doing? No, but like some of the policies that we've seen in the last few decades, that's absolutely what ended up happening, right? And when they started doing that, what it did is it actually made those people racist. Like it kind of created this room for the real racists to kind of come in and like co-opt the identitarian movement, right? So like people seem to have this idea that okay, the woke leftist ideology or the transgender ideology is like a bad thing for society, and so we need to get on television and scream from the rooftops about how bad this thing is. And what actually happens when you do that is more people see it and the virus spreads faster. The correct thing to do in those situations is to just ignore it. Fight against it when it's happening there, and don't give it the attention on the national stage, because that just allows it to infect more people. You see what I mean? So that's why I'm really careful about coming out and spreading these kinds of I would say conspiracy theory level ideas about what's going on in politics, because just by me sharing that sort of a thing could like make it happen. It looks like the treasuries are about to... It looks like they pierced that high by at least one tick, but it hasn't like meaningfully broken out yet, but it looks like we're on the right direction. I probably could have taken 2 contracts on that, but I think that I will just keep it with what I've got right now. We've still got 20 minutes until the S&P 500 opens. What are we at? 3.345? So that was only actually 5 ticks. That's odd. Okay. You say so, Uzi. Because to be honest, what I see is like, here's like the layout and here's all of the problems, and okay, the left is like an objective, like objectively problematic at the moment. They are pushing ideologies and pushing culture in a direction that is objectively bad for our society, in my opinion. So then it's like you come over to the right, and the ideas on the right are the things that should be able to push against that ideology and get us on track to where we need to go. And then I look at the right, and all I hear on the right is insane conspiracy theories and spewing nonsense that has like no basis in fact whatsoever. So like the one group of people that you could turn to try and solve this problem, and they're so stuck in like this primitive view of the world that they're useless. That's the way that I see it. So when I go on the Donald and I see what people are saying, it's like QAnon conspiracy nonsense for the most part. Like QAnon disappeared, but I continue to see that hardcore Trump base continues to say the same sorts of things still. It's just populistic and not even conservative, maybe. Like that's the thing, is that if I go into those circles and I say like, well, here's what we actually know about the market, they're not interested in it, right? They are not interested in understanding what a system is and how it works and how we might be able to change the policy to change it or whatever. They don't care. They instantly go like, oh, you're part of the smart, controlling people. We don't like you. That's like how it tends to go, man. I think you're really exaggerating like what is a struggle session. Like seriously. I would say that a struggle session is a little bit more involved than just like a public shaming. Like, I don't think that you can say because somebody on the internet got called out or accused of being a racist or whatever, that means that is a struggle session. I don't think that's accurate. What I would want to see in order to call it a struggle session would be people in positions of authority abusing their power over other people to put them in those situations to publicly shame in an attempt to coerce them into a certain course of action. So like if somebody on Twitter comes out and says this guy is racist, that's not a struggle session. But like if Google calls an all hands meeting and then in that all hands meeting brings people up to the front and says, you've been on this and you've said this, and then they say, oh, I've they're coerced into saying, oh, this was so awful, I will change my way. That's like a struggle session, right? And like the scary thing about the struggle session too is that like it was they would stage it. Like they would have people that would come up and like were told to falsely confess to things that they didn't do in order to coerce other people into doing it. Right? So I'm trying to give you my definition of a struggle session. Show me an instance where that has happened. Or because I think you can probably find an instance, but I'm saying it's not like a super common thing yet. It's certainly not like a word that the average person is thinking about right now, right? Actually, it'd be interesting to go and like look at Google Trends on that. Well, We had like a really good pop there, but kind of pulled back a little bit too quickly for my likes. No, I mean, you say it happens all the time, but isn't that the point of contention? Let's see here. Well, this chart seems to be in line with what I may be kind of thinking. When was that? June 2020. That's curious. So you can see like the term is at the moment becoming more popular. Because what I'm saying is I'm concerned that it's about to do this. Right? Nah, I don't think that that cancel culture is the same thing. I don't. Ignore them. I wouldn't, I mean, unless I actually said something bad, but I feel like I try to be careful, but you know, I'm a little ADHD and sometimes I don't fully think through what I'm saying. So it'd be very possible that I could say something that was inappropriate, but you know, if I did nothing wrong, I would say I did nothing wrong and I would ignore them. Okay, that would be awesome. Spreading on Reddit and Twitter and stuff, thousands upon thousands of people pressuring you. Oh man, no, like seriously, if that happened, here's probably how it would go. YouTube comes in and decides to demonetize my channel, and then I go and I post on Twitter instead and ignore the rest of it. Yeah. Right. Okay, so within, so you're saying you have three people disagreeing. Within the context of what we're talking about, right? You're trying to turn this into a semantic conversation, right? So if you say, well, there's been struggle sessions, and then I say, no, I don't, but here's what my definition of a struggle session is. And so then I say, do you have examples of this thing happening, right? And what you're doing now is you're trying to go back to trying to say that like cancel culture is like a struggle session. Okay, there's parallels and stuff, but I think that there's another element of a struggle session that's really important in there that I'm keeping an eye out for. Okay, so if you go with my definition of a struggle session here, right, I do not think it's something that we've seen. At least not widespread. The result of being canceled is easy to return whether the mob demands or disappear. I don't know, man. I think I would probably just ignore it. So this is a different conversation, right? I don't know if you really want to segue into this different thing, because this is not we're no longer talking about like a question of like what is going to happen in the future, right? Segue me. Okay. The way that these things play out on the internet, I think, has been an interesting evolution. And it's always been something that I find a little bit odd because at the end of the day, I feel like that the reason that it's been going the way that it is because the targets care too much, right? It's like somebody on the internet said something mean about me. Who gives a fuck? Really? Yeah, is it like millions of people saying things? Okay, then I'm just gonna like not look at Twitter for a few years, right? Like, I understand why it affects people, but that is not something that I am prone to, right? If there was like mobs of people getting upset about something that I said, I would 100% double down. You know I would, right? and if it like just like gathered more ire, you're like, okay, what happens happens. You don't care about your reputation always up to a certain point. Well, like, look, obviously it would be like really rough if it like affected my job and stuff. But you know, I can tell you, like straight up, people have tried to get me canceled from my job, and my job was like, we don't give a fuck. There have been instances where somebody didn't like something that I said on Reddit, and they tried to contact my employer, and my employer just laughed. Right. I would really like the people where I work are pretty conservative, right? So I would really have to say something objectively bad for it to affect my job. I digress. Right. Come to my house. I mean, I will charge you for trespassing if you like actually trespass, but yeah, you understand, like the whole thing is trying to use social coercion in order to control people's behavior. And I'm saying, and I'm not saying that I'm not immune to that effect, but I am saying that I am one of the least susceptible to that stuff, a type of person. I really don't give a fuck what other people think. Right? If I have some sort of an emotional attachment to a person and then they start, you know, attacking, then that really upsets me, right? But I just think that everything that's going on the internet, it's always just been, I love arguing. I love being on the side of the people are saying, getting all mad at me and saying crazy things, and I love to laugh about it. You know, I've stopped recently because it doesn't seem very productive to me, you know, but and so I feel that one of the problems that we've had is that you've given people this power, right? We're told, like, if somebody accuses you of something or tells you that you did something that offended them or was mean or whatever the deal is, then the correct thing to do is to apologize and to try and work out an understanding so that you can improve and be better. And that's what personal development is all about, right? That's what you've been told about in a society. And listen, that's totally true at a macro level, okay? Like if somebody at church says something to you, or your wife says something to you, you might want to think about, oh, okay, was that behavior appropriate? You might want to moderate your behavior just to get along with people, right? But when you're talking about a societal level, yeah, there's going to be people out there that don't like what I have to say. 100% there is going to be. And I'm not going to change because of that. Hell no. Lock me up. There's no way. And like the thing that I'm telling you, yeah, I would double down. I would 100% double down. And I'm not just saying this as like a, well, I know what I would do in this situation. I think that I'm the person that has like the strength of character to hold to what it is that I think in that situation, etc., etc. That's not it. That's not it. I am literally incapable of doing what you're talking about. Like I can't do it. It's like an autistic ADHD whatever kind of trait, right? If I know that I'm right and I have all the evidence and everything to back it up, I'm not going to back down until somebody actually has like real evidence. That doesn't mean that I can't be, because I can be convinced that I'm wrong on something, can't I? If people actually present evidence, right? But if they're going to come and make some stupid thing, like for instance, I believe that people should be rewarded for their based on merit. I think that a society that is based on merit as being the goal, and I'm not saying that merit ends up being the reality, okay? But the more that we can factor in merit into how we make our decisions, the better off we are. And going and giving people benefits based on their historical oppression or things like that is objectively bad for society, right? And I don't give a shit what people say. I don't care if AOC is like trying to swarm her minions online against me. I'm not going to change that. And I'm not going to apologize about it either. And that's where I'm saying that like all of these people, they come in and they see this thing and it causes them emotional distress because they think, oh, I need to like apologize to people and do this, that, and the other thing. And so then what do? They come out and they apologize when they did nothing wrong. Right? Oh, I didn't change the date. Thank you. Shift that. Right? But no, what I'm looking for on a struggle session, okay, there are two things that I would be looking for in a struggle session. Is number one, is that it is a meeting organized by a person with authority over you, right? So it can't just be some random person online, and it can't just be like a congressperson on Twitter trying to whip up a mob, right? It has to be like your boss at work, right? In a situation where you can't just walk away, right? Because if people online come after me for something ideological that I said, right? I can just ignore them. I can choose to just like not be on Twitter if I have to, right? That would maybe not be such a bad thing, okay? But if it's like at work and it's like I have to sit there and put up with this struggle session, otherwise I get fired, or like the way that it was in communist China, it was like I have to sit here and put up with this struggle session, otherwise I'm gonna be like killed and put in a prison or something like that, right? But why? So I'm giving you, here's the thing that I'm concerned about, right? Do you not understand? Like I was just going, I hate it when I feel like I already like explained something and then I'm going back and explaining it again, because that just says to me that you're not very effective at explaining these things, Seth. Okay. You can have your own definition. Okay. I don't care. I'm saying this is the particular thing that I'm concerned about, right? The thing that I'm concerned about is people in authority starting to use their authority to coerce compliance with the woke ideology in organized struggle sessions, right? So if people, this other thing is, I don't care about that because we know that that's already happening, right? I'm talking about the next stage of the next evolution of this thing. Where does it go? And I'm telling you, that's what I think the next level, that's, you're giving people the idea and they're going to start doing it. Have they done that on a college campus? I think there probably have been instances like that, right? Though, although, can you find it for me? Because it seems to me like that there have been struggle sessions, but like I said, it's not become a trend yet, right? So my theory is you should be able to find specific instances, but it's not something that has become like a strong trend or concern among people yet, right? People have their diplomas leveraged against them. Well, isn't that kind of what was the whole like complaint at Evergreen College, right? So perhaps we could say that at Evergreen College there was struggle sessions, right? Right. But the headline that I'm looking for, that the headline that I'm thinking is going to come across my screen is like struggle session at Apple, That's the way that I think it ends up playing out, is like Apple, Google, one of these big tech companies has a relatively high level struggle session where employees are called out and forced to renounce things in order to keep their job at like a big tech company or a big financial company. And me seeing all of a sudden people starting to use the word and it increasing in search and everything like that kind of suggests to me that this might be something that could be coming down the pipe soon. Yeah. Well, yes, it does, because again, the point of this was to say where is like the next shoe to drop, and what is like the next narrative and political environment under which things happen. So like if it's happened in one time and it's not a big enough deal to like come out in the media and like people really talking about it and being concerned about it, then that's not really relevant to the prediction that we're making, is it? Right? Because the prediction that we're making is that struggle sessions will become a thing that people are concerned about, and that there will be specific instances cited in media of these happening at companies, and that like the search traffic for the term struggle session will skyrocket, right? Companies, I don't think it's a widespread thing. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think it's coming from. That's where I'm concerned. I'm concerned that people are giving them ideas, at least, right? Because there's this one side which is like what I've seen so far. So here's another part about a struggle session that I think is a little bit different, or let's not say that this is a struggle session, but there's another component that you could see in these sorts of things that would be really concerning, right? So a lot of what we see going on in the culture right now are things that like people commonly do. Does that make sense? I don't know. We had a really strong pullback and we floated right back up here. I'm not really sure what to make of all of that. The S&P 500 is looking pretty down on the open here. Let's open up the KRE. It looks like Pac West is taking a plunge. Let's zoom in on this a little bit so we can get a better picture of what's going on. You're on the micros. You bought. Well, but it's down 5-10 points. Okay, anyways, so where was I getting at? Okay, so like humans have evolved this whole thing about like shame as a part of it's something that happens in a normal society. Like you're in the neighborhood and you're doing something really dumb and annoying, and then people will shame you for doing it so that you don't do that thing anymore. And this is a mechanism that exists within normal human society that is really there to kind of like keep the peace and solidarity. Is like, how can we keep everybody in the group happy, right? And it's really common to see those kinds of dynamics spiral out of control, right? And so a lot of what you're seeing with this woke movement is it's kind of like there's like this idea that gets implanted in people's head, and then once they believe in that idea, everything else that they do is just kind of a consequence of that. You know, this is, I fully subscribe to the mind virus theory that there is that at the heart of woke ideology is this kind of mind virus that once people buy into it, it just like destroys them as a person, causes all sorts of erratic behavior, and then they go around and they start trying to spread it to other people, right? You bought on the PPI news for the evening? Oh, yeah. You know, I had said this earlier today, Golden Dragon, but like when I looked over at the treasuries, I saw there's a range that we could play. I think it's going to go long, but I don't know if the treasuries can move that much. And I think the behavior that we've seen so far is still within that range. I think they would need to go a little bit higher for me to be like, oh man, like it really was like a strong buy in treasuries. But then I looked over here in equities. And I'm like, well, I don't know if the treasuries will go a certain way, but the equities might do something. And I'm concerned that because of the banking crisis and all of the and the job numbers, that it's going to be negative. So at the moment they're selling, but we're only like 5 minutes into it, so it's not like the end of the story or anything. Okay, so anyways, let me continue my point, all right? On this woke thing, okay? So like the woke mobs online and the shame on you and all those are all kind of like things that people will do on their own. But struggle sessions were like specifically designed manipulations. Like they came in and they would accuse people of doing stuff that they knew the person hadn't done anything, and they would implant people to say things that they knew weren't true, intentionally to coerce other people into doing the same, and even to coerce people into admitting to things that weren't true and stuff like that, all to kind of force this sort of compliance. You know what I mean? Right? So, this is something where it would be hard to prove. I really wonder in those situations in China, like how they knew that. I guess maybe victims afterwards said that like they told me to admit to this, even though we knew it wasn't true. Right? but that's another thing that I'm kind of looking at is like, so far what I see in the United States is kind of more like social dynamics just going awry because of the social media and on all of that sort of stuff. But what I'm on the lookout for, the thing that everybody seems to be saying is happening, but and I don't doubt that it's true, but it's just how can we prove it? Is these kinds of specific manipulations, right? Where we can prove that these, it would be this sort of a thing like the news story I would really like to see is like AOC admitted to me that she knew that Xing was wrong and she pushed it anyways because, to control people or whatever the deal was, right? Nice the entry. Thanks, live action. I don't know if it's, I think that it's been good so far. I'm kind of a little bit concerned about the exit on this now. They're not giving me the long here anymore. In fact, I'm kind of looking at it like maybe I need to just bail here. I think I should give it just a little bit more room. China still does it? Oh, we'll probably. Well, I guess I have kind of heard things about what's going on in camps with the Uyghurs and stuff like that, right? Yeah, the top of the pro. Well, you notice the top of the profile and then ZN is like a pretty wide one too. So like what I'm seeing is we developed a liquidity hole. We stayed in it for a while. We have now kind of distributed out across a wider range. During that range, I haven't seen a specific or excessive imbalance in the market orders or anything like that. So I think that probably, okay, so let's put our stop right here. So anyways, the trade ended up being a good one, but the underlying flow that's actually giving it to me, I'd say, is quite lackluster. And that's why I'm like super concerned. Yeah, that link went through. I'm super concerned about like, I don't even know if it will come back up to that 15.5. I probably should have taken profits when it was up there. I feel like that having that stop there is just begging for it to be hit. Interestingly enough, it is kind of holding its own right here around the VWAP, but they're trying to bait the guy up at 10. No, wait, what are you talking about? You're talking about in... Kashgari is speaking still, by the way. Oh, I think I was confused because he kept saying up when it's below us. You might be right. There does seem to be this thing where like if there's a big order somewhere, it's like it can't get too far away from that big order or something. Yeah, sellers trying to bring the price higher and make him think that the market is leaving without him. I'm trying to remember when that showed up. I mean, the thing is that when we had that like initial breakout, I do remember that when we had that initial breakout, there was another stack somewhere up here. It was like at 13 or 14, right? Remember that? So there was somebody else big did chase it. Yeah. But like bigger picture, I think that this position that I'm in, maybe it's worth it to stay in, but I think I've made a mistake because I'm not seeing like a large meta order long going through or anything like that, right? The flow has been mostly sideways and we have traded a wide range, but it's come back overall, right? So I don't think this is that great of a trade, and maybe I should just be bailing here. I don't know. I feel like that there's a couple of things that suggest to me that the basis of the trade is bad and that I need to do something, but I'm not sure what I can do. and I do think there's a slight possibility that it comes back up maybe to 14. Somebody's gonna have to make a decision. Well, I think that what may happen though is like when I look at this, it's really hard for me to see like, is there something really significant going on in the treasuries right now? It doesn't seem to be the case. So I think that if we were going to see a move, it would probably be more likely to come from a correlated instrument. For instance, the dollar is looking really strong this morning, right? So right there, that dip in the dollar, was the PPI. And then since then, it's just been all along the dollar. So the dollar moving there hasn't been too much correlation with the dollar, I guess you could say. I do see some decent correlation with the Japanese yen though, and the Japanese yen is kind of much more clearly facing down. Okay, so based on that, I really do need to get out of this. But the limit order, oh damn. I probably should have just hit it. Come on. Pac West is trimmed its losses, but it was just halted. Okay. Oh, I hate it when it does that. Okay. So I was able to pull an okay profit out of that. 3. Oh, no, wait. How many fills? Oh, that was terrible. That was actually a terrible trade. That actually ended up being a really terrible trade. Why is it not giving me the... No, not that one. Of course, as soon as I bail, it starts bouncing. It is going to go back to 14, isn't it? Ah, gee. That's what I really hate about that kind of action, though, is that, like, it could go down, it could go back up, and there's, like, really no reason. And the only reason that there's stress on it is because of you, right? But then what I often do in that situation is I just try and let it ride. And then, then you make it even worse, if it's good, then hey, sometimes you catch runners off of that. But when it's bad, it can be just dismal. I don't know. So another thing that I'm seeing here, though, is like the amount of volume per price that we're trading is a bit higher than usual. When do microstructure researchers model with a quadratic equation as opposed to a power law? I don't think I've seen a model that was quadratic. Maybe there is, and I can't think of it, but it's that one key dynamic that ends up being a square root law. It's a power law, but I thought because I see exponents as quadratic. I think that for it to be quadratic, you have to have 3 terms, right? Isn't the definition of a quadratic equation one that goes like y equals c plus bx plus x to the a or something like that? There's a match for 10 at 15 half. What are you talking about? Kind of equation is Black-Scholes? Oh, you must mean this 15 half. Yes. Well, I think that one is the liquidity left over from when we were up there and came back down. Yeah. I mean, the thing here is the market seems to be moving more and more towards one dominated by the market maker and is just moving randomly in this area, right? So, and there's no clear indication of a large meta order coming through. So I think it would be very difficult for these really big orders down here to get filled, Like, who's actually going to fill those? Unless we're getting a short coming on, which could be. Or I guess another way of putting that would be I got out because the flows were not supportive of the longer swing trade. Ergo, the flows would not be supportive of any position, any directional position. The flows would only be supportive of market making out the range. Looking through headlines, Hindenburg raises critical new questions about Icon's increasing share pledges in new report. Yeah. Well, and the issue with this one is that it's like a 10 tick range. So like if I'm coming over here and I'm trying to take, 1 to 4 ticks at a time, it could come and just wipe me out just randomly. It is a little bit of an odd situation, isn't it? It's not typical of the treasuries. And that's where it gets kind of weird, is for it to be trading that range and the kind of volume that it's trading and everything. That would make you think that there is something going on, right? But then when you step back and you look at the bigger picture, you see that actually there is nothing to support that. On the micro level, it might seem like there's something going on, but on the macro level, you don't see it. Or let's not call it macro, let's call it the meso level. Okay, I want to read this story from Zero Hedge about the jobs numbers. Okay, so they say, and just like that, the job market has finally cracked 1 week after the latest JOLTS report confirmed the sharp deterioration in U.S. jobs as the number of job openings tumbled for moments ago. Biden's DOL, Department of Labor, finally threw in the towel on initial claims data manipulation when it reported that in the latest week, a whopping 264 initial jobless claims were reported, a spike from the 242K the week prior and a huge miss to the 245K consensus estimate. Worse, this was the highest print since October of 2021, and unfortunately, it's all uphill from here. So them showing that if this continues, if you were talking technical analysis and chart, that we're in a no man's land where it's, wouldn't be long before you'd be seeing 300K jobless claims. Although I don't know if we get that far. Something probably would break before that, right? Brent was a 4 sigma miss to expectation and was above the highest forecast made by the 45 economists participating in the survey. Okay, so this number was a much bigger deal than we initially caught on to, which could explain treasuries up, equities down. We had kind of an explanation of how that could work out, but when you come in and you say, well, the jobless claims was a bigger beat and a key data point, that would give you a higher probability of it being, risk outflows. Okay. As a reminder, it was only a month ago that the Department of Labor admitted it had chronically misrepresented claims print using wrong seasonal adjustments, and while there had just been one 200K initial claims print in the pre-revised data, promptly mutated into an ugly series where there had not been a single print below 200K since January. A state-by-state breakdown showed that the most weekly change prints were in line, with notable outliers. Massachusetts and California were the states with the biggest increases in claims, while Kentucky and Colorado saw the biggest drops. Where's my state? Hold on here. Right in the middle. Well, that's not interesting. Okay, but that's the full story. Now let's read about the Carl Icahn saga. The next chapter of the Hindenburg Research versus Carl Icahn saga looks like it's beginning. Both firms have dug their heels in, with Icahn Enterprises issuing a scathing response to the short seller alongside its earnings yesterday, and with Hindenburg Research offering up new questions this morning. It's frustrating because the ZN started its move up in the Europe session, so these informed guys knew stuff before. Well, I don't know. So, the thing is, going back here, if we come back and look at the chart, there was this whole thing right here. I'm still not quite sure what this was about. I think that there was a headline there, and since I wasn't sitting at the desk right when that happened, I'm not 100% sure what was caused that. I think it might have had something to do with PacWest, but I think that was a thing like even last night, so I'm not so sure. But yeah, it was like it came down and then it came back up. And when you look at the number, like if you just look at what the high was after the PPI and the jobless claims, You know, they extended a little bit, but it was like only very brief. So this is the bigger issue that I'm having, right? Is, you know, it did this. It just really died out. I mean, for this, it was great, right? The beginning of the trade was great, but like it didn't get very far and it just died out. I'm not quite sure what's going on. It's a little frustrating. It is definitely frustrating because it seemed like it was a situation where we should really be getting a lot of good opportunity. It hasn't turned into that, has it? It's kind of turned into a little bit of a mess in the Z's. Okay, reading the story. Okay, this morning Hindenburg released a follow-up. Do you want me to do it in the funny announcer voice? I'll do it in the funny announcer voice. This morning, Hindenburg released a follow-up to its original report called Icon's Latest Disclosures Raise Critical New Questions About Margin Loans, Continued Profit Portfolio Losses. In the piece, the short seller points out that per IEP's latest 10Q, Carl Icon's pledged shares have increased. The short seller also notes that Icon added $3.4 billion in cash to his investment fund since 2014 and asks the question, where did the money come from? We strongly suspect, based on our analysis that we had not previously published, that Carl Icahn has borrowed billions and reinvested some or all of the proceeds into his own investment funds. These funds subsequently generated significant losses, which could pose an over-leveraging risk for both Carl Icahn himself and IEP unit holders. Dude, if Hindenburg is right about this whole thing, this is so weird. So let's think this through for a second. If Hindenburg research is right about this, then Carl Icahn is finished and his legacy is forever trashed, right? Because it would basically mean that for the last decade, he hasn't really actually been making money and it was all fake, right? Which is like a really big accusation to make. If Hindenburg research is wrong, it would completely tarnish their legacy as well, right? So when I look at that and it's like everybody's all in, like either Carl Icahn or Hindenburg research is finished after all of this, I think I would have to side with Hindenburg research. I think that it's more likely. I don't know if this is likely enough for me to take a position, but it seems to me like it's more likely that Hindenburg research is correct. Oh, what's the news about Carl Icahn? So, Hindenburg research writes, we strongly suspect, based on our analysis that we had not previously published, that Carl Icahn has borrowed billions and reinvested some or all of the proceeds into his own investment funds. These funds subsequently generated significant losses, which could pose an over-leveraging risk for both Carl Icahn himself and IEP unit holders. So basically they're saying that like Carl Icahn's fund has been performing terribly and that it's just gonna like it could just completely collapse, that his entire wealth is basically a mirage. So I'm saying like it's such a big claim to be making that like one side or the other is going to be like decimated from this in the end. And if that is the case, I think it's more likely that Hindenburg research is correct. And if that is the case, and then, you know, because this is a thing, that like, okay, if this all goes the way that Hindenburg research is saying that it's going to go, there's going to be like a CNBC or Netflix documentary and all of those sorts of things. It would very, very much change the narrative that we hear when it comes to large funds, right? I think it would be a pretty significant event for the finance industry. It's kind of a big deal. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe neither side ends up admitting anything, and the story just kind of disappears, and we all forget about it. Sometimes that happens. One of the things that's really frustrating about following the news is that some news stories do just end up going nowhere, and you forget about it. And because you forget about it, you don't realize that you forgot about it, right? Okay, so in the ending part of this, they say since they first came out, IEP shares are down almost 40%, but Icon is committed to keeping the dividend in place and fighting back on behalf of his shareholders. I probably need to create a better way of like watching stocks. So there's a couple that I, should be looking at. I need to make a list that I like review every day and then adjust based on, what am I looking for? Why is that on my list? And then taking them off when they're no longer relevant or whatever. Maybe I can do it with a spreadsheet because I can like access financial prices in a spreadsheet, right? That's probably how I should do it. Curious until those kind of come back. You think they could get back to 24 again? That would be nice. Anyways. It looks like the market is so far is trying to just shrug off this regional banking stuff. But even though the regional banking sector has kind of recovered, the S&P 500 has not. And one has to come back over here and wonder, like with an interest rate of 3.5, let's say 3.36. 3.36 is awfully low, right? Wow. FDIC to hit biggest U.S. banks with $16 billion bill for SVB cleanup. Ouch. That's a special assessment they're going to put on to be able to pay for it. Ends up being $16 billion for the industry. That's a big number. That's probably not going to help bank stocks today, huh? I don't know, guys. I find this situation really tough because the current action looks not very favorable, but I still have the feeling that we're going to see something. Like I still have the feeling that we could see some movement today. I'm not sure why I feel that way, because it seems irrational. Why do I have those feelings like something's gonna happen? now that I've gone through all that, I'm going back to our conversation that we had earlier, and I was like, I think that I got Uzi to the point where we were understanding, but I didn't say like, okay, like I feel like we understand everything. We all feel good. I keep coming back to this thing that's like teamwork is like a super important thing, and I don't really feel like we're doing a super awesome job at that, are we? You always feel good. I'm glad you feel that way, Uzi. You know me, I'm a little bit on the anxious side about relationships with people, but man, I feel like that the online trading community could be so much more, and I just don't know how to get it there, you know? I think it's good to ask these kinds of questions. Something that I remember talking about on the stream a long, like really early on was like, you know, I was talking about, well, you can see this in the order flow and you can see this in the order flow. And it's like, well, yeah, there's like a big iceberg there that makes it hard for it to go through. But the problem is that makes it hard to predict anything is that like this huge massive market orders could come in at any time and push through things. And so like, how do you deal with that? How do you predict what those orders are going to do? Right. And the reality is that I was asking myself the right questions as to that led to the order flow theory of markets, and so when the research kind of came in and showed us you know, the data behind all of this, I knew exactly what was going on because I had been asked, you know, I'd been looking for it for a long time, you know what I mean? And so every time that I start asking those questions, I kind of start thinking about that. It's just like, okay, like I know what the correct question is. What are the things that we can do to make the community tighter and to get more benefit from people working together to trade? Eventually it will reveal itself, and we, you know, if we're asking that question, hopefully we should be able to recognize it when we see it. What trade are you in? I was in a trade earlier where I was long from about 10.5, and I did catch quite a good favorable excursion on it, but in the end I only ended up taking like 8 ticks out of it. It was like 8 ticks on 8 contracts, so it wasn't actually a very good trade in the long run. It was like a good entry and not the best exit. Is there a time frame that is preferred by institutions to trade block orders? Do they reference time charts? Yeah, so I think that the one thing that is the most dominant in that factor is that there is like more liquidity to execute in the first and last 30 minutes of the equities trading session. So they like to start these block orders during the times that we're watching the market, right? And a lot of it also comes off of when the news is. So that's why I was saying like, okay, the news is at 6:30, and then oftentimes you will see them start to execute block orders at like 7:15. 7:10. Who is us? Me and all of you guys that watch this stream literally every day. By the way, Trading Bunny, where were you yesterday? I was like, oh, she didn't. We were having a good chat on the day before, and then she disappeared. Oh man, that was kind of like left field, Uzi. Are you trying to bait me into another political discussion? Oh, that's right. It was just caretaking for your mom. I got you. Oh, you saw something on Twitter? I don't know. There are some issues that I kind of like. How do I put this? The issues that I tend to get triggered about are the ones where I feel like that nobody knows what's going on, and it's not. Like, I'm concerned about the woke thing. It seems like it's gonna play itself out and fizzle, but like the problem I have is like how much damage is going to be done in the meantime, right? I'm not so concerned about the transgender issue because I'm pretty confident that that one has already started to play out and come back. It doesn't seem like it. One of the things that's really weird with cultural issues is that things have usually shifted before things seem like they've hit their height. So like you're probably still going to be seeing a lot of news stories and stuff about it, but it appears that like the public has shifted and is moving towards you really shouldn't be doing these surgeries for children, right? That's going to be like the end takeaway from it, but it's not going to seem like that issue like was resolved and fizzled out. You're not going to realize it for like another 2 years. The upcoming generation born after 2013 seems like they are getting the brunt of the woke stuff in school. Yeah, I don't know. Like, so I've definitely seen all of these things where like woke teachers are posting stuff on social media basically saying that they're trying to push this stuff in school and stuff like that. But I'm not convinced that that's all of it. Like this whole thing that like the youth are leaning more heavily Democrat than usual, and that overall for millennials, well, it's not true of certain demographics, particularly white males, but overall millennials are shifting left and are staying more left. And people on the right say, well, it's because they're indoctrinated in school. Well, I'm not saying that the indoctrination is not happening, but I'm not convinced that that's why it's happening. So actually, I read something else the other day that was super interested and really shifted my perspective on something. And this was actually an old article that I had missed. And it was on, I think it was on The Atlantic. So it was a pretty serious publication, but it's not like, I wouldn't necessarily call them the most equally, most objective, equal organization. But anyways, and the story was the myth of the broke millennial. So everything that we've been said and all of the discussions that I've seen has basically been like millennials got screwed by coming into the jobs market in 2008 and then have just never recovered. And like we're never really able to get good jobs and things like that. Right. And the reality is when you look at median incomes or the different quantiles of income groups for people in the millennial age group, it actually shows that millennials did recover, that millennials are actually making more now than the generation before them. And so this whole idea that millennials got screwed and everything, it's like completely false. Which is interesting because that continues to be the political push, right? It's like, well, we need to get the leftists in here and completely transform the system because it's not working for people and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, no, it is working for millennials. You're making even more than the generation before you. How can that actually be? I don't know. I would love to hear a rebuttal to that. But one thing that they talked about in the article was that overall they are doing better. But there's one key group that is not. Two key groups. The uneducated and white men. And it's like, when you go online, especially when you read on Reddit, and like, who are the people that are going to be the most dominant, vocal people in the online discussions about what's going on in the economy, and it's going to be white men. So we've been given a distorted perspective because there's a lot of men in this economy that aren't doing so well, and especially if they weren't educated. Isn't that interesting? That kind of like shifted a lot of things for me. It was kind of like, oh, actually, where we think some of the problems aren't actually where they're at. Which is to say that, like, despite all of the issues that we have had, we're still doing okay. That gives me a lot of hope. I mean, that doesn't mean that, for instance, we spend too much on healthcare. Like, costs have gone up. Like, this is a big problem. We need to fix that. But I no longer think, oh, that's such a big problem that it's like holding like a whole generation back, and like a whole generation is squandering their wealth. Well, maybe millennials did squander their wealth, but that they're doing okay. That's good. That's good. Well, they came back to this 110 area where we originally built out our position, and they're just kind of chilling there again. It looks like the dollar is kind of moderated and found a range a bit. Oil's still on the downside. E-mini's still kind of pressing the downside. At some point, it could result in more risk outflows, but for the time being, the market still seems really quiet. I'm feeling, over the past week, I don't think I've taken any live trades this week. And part of it was because I wasn't feeling very good, but also part of it was because the action just doesn't look very good. And I can remember many times in the past where I thought I was doing good, and then I came into May and I just got obliterated in May, right? This time I haven't been thinking too much about that seasonality, but that I was able to see it in the flows is like really good. Like, I think that that's a really good positive development. I got this little pen, my Wacom tablet, and sometimes if I put the pen on the Wacom tablet, it will like read inputs for some reason, and you see my mouse just skipped there. Yeah, hate that. It's no good. Now, with that said, I should make sure my accounts are off so that I don't misclick something. Okay. Kind of looking around to see if there's any other interesting stories for us to discuss this morning. Ah, yes, I heard Tucker Carlson is going to Twitter. Yes. So we should look at that because I was wondering, what are the stipulations on that? Because it sounded like that he would have like a subscription service that you could subscribe to his service on Twitter and then you would be able to see the videos, but they don't do that on Twitter, do they? Musk says encrypted messaging and video calling are coming to Twitter. Yeah. It sounded like he was going to produce. Yeah, and his show is like an hour-long show. I mean, I know I can. Maybe they'll add videos to Spaces. And I haven't messed with Spaces too much, to be honest with you. I feel like we should, but... So, like, I know that I can come in and I can, like... Well, I can add, like, media, right? So I could add a video in here. But, like, I don't know what the limitations are, and how do you make it so that it's, like, only for subscribers? Or are those like Twitter Blue features? And do they do live streaming? Because I would totally do live streaming on Twitter. Twitter live streaming. They used to have Periscope, but I don't know. That's still a thing. Twitter is the place to see from breaking news. Blah 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 blah. Tap the how to start live video. Tap the icon from the composer. Wait. And that icon I don't have. Can you run Jigsaw on Wine? Probably. Probably. I gotta tell you though, like Wine can be a journey. I don't know if I would want to be doing that with like my trading software, you know? I fail to so why you ask? This sounds to me like a question like you're trying to do something that you shouldn't. That there's probably a better way. So let me back up. Here's how I would approach this sort of a thing. Like I would have my trading computer be Windows and I would, use like a stripped down version of Windows that has all of the services and crap turned off, but I would use Windows. And then if there was something that I wanted to do that was Linux-y, I would use the Windows subsystem for Linux to go and, to run a virtual machine of Linux on there. I don't remember Jigsaw and Sarah on anything but Windows. I don't think that the setup that you would get from doing that would be better or more reliable than the one that you would get from just using a stripped down version of Windows. But yeah, I'm told that Wine has gotten like a lot better, but sometimes something doesn't work correctly in Wine, and then it's like a huge journey to figure out how to get it to work. I don't know. Windows is a lot better than it used to be, right? I remember back in Windows 95 and Windows 2000, there was certain things that it did that were just like stupid, but it's gotten so much better these days. So we still got a lot of time left, but look, the treasuries are starting to come back down, and there's quite a bit of Japanese yen correlation along with this, and you're also seeing, well, I mean, this happened a little bit ago, but you also saw gold and silver take a big hit. Guess we're getting comments from Feds Waller here. This is interesting. And also there was when they dropped below 10, some pretty significant flows for it to happen too. So I'm not sure what to make of that. Oops. I'm not seeing, well, actually I'm seeing a little bit of a persistent sell in the 5-year. How hard is it to convert code from TradingView to Ninja? So you can't like directly convert them, but I've never had a problem actually doing it. I think mostly because the indicators that people give me on TradingView aren't that complicated. But I don't think that you can just like, run it through a thing that changes the names of the, changes the formatting and then it works. It's not like that. You have to like actually like just rebuild it in NinjaTrader, but it's usually not very hard, because the hard things are usually like figuring out the formulas or whatever it is that it's going to do. I think I'm gonna reset my DOM here. It's coming back up. Retesting VWAP. That may have just been a head fake to try and convince people to sell. I mean, they did sell and now somebody is buying it back up. Yes, ZT is the 2-year. T is for 2. Actually, I don't know what the T is for. The naming convention doesn't necessarily make sense, but ZB is bond, ZN is note, ZF is 5 and 2. It's like, okay. Oh, look, I get a baby. Hello, baby. Look, baby. Look, you are on the internet. Look right there. Look, that's you. You're on the internet. Yes. Say hi. Here, we use this hand. Oh, I got it wrong. It's over here. Yeah. And look, if you say stuff, you can say something really cute into that. Say something. Yeah. Say dada. Ha ha! You did it. Good job. You look good. You don't look it. You look a lot better on the camera than you do in person because you got some pretty nasty stuff coming out of your nose, dried underneath of your nose there. Oh, you can't see the screen setup details. What is it that you're trying to see exactly? Oh, whoa. Why is it? Did you press buttons over here? Oh no. Okay. It's okay. It was on sim. Okay, you took a trade. Okay, it just moved against you, Ethan. Did you just move that? Did you just move that limit order up? He's like, no, I don't want to break even. I'm getting at least 6 ticks, Dad. Oh my gosh. I really hope that comes back up so that Ethan's first trade can be a profitable trade. That would be awesome. Yes, starting already. Dude, you know what I find so interesting about the kids? Even Asher, who is a little bit autistic and doesn't seem to understand what's going on the way that other people do. I mean, like Ethan's understanding of social situations is better than Asher's at this point. But they're both so interested in the mouse, and they know that like it does something. Like you can't. They say, "Oh, I want to play with the TV remote," right? So you can't go and find a different remote that doesn't work and give that to them. They don't want that one. They know. Somehow they know that it doesn't work. How did you choose? I don't remember. We made a big list and we picked them, and then my wife picks the one that she likes at the hospital after about a day. After Ethan, it had been a day before she decided that she was going to call him Ethan. And it has to have more than 2 syllables in it. It has to have 2 or more syllables in it, rather. Oh, man. You can close windows and stuff on me now. When I give Asher the mouse, I have a hard time trying to show him that like which are the 2 buttons that do something, because he's more interested in the button on the side. Here, you want those headphones? But Ethan knows. He goes right for the primary mouse button. You see, he just put the headphones on. He did that. He picked him up and put him over his neck. Yeah, you like those headphones, my boy? Those headphones have really good bass. Really rumbly. I'll show you later. No, don't move up, treasuries. Keep selling. Cynthia's just so classic. Like, we get in something. My baby gets in a position, and then all of a sudden the market starts doing weird things. Even though it's a sim order, what is with that? How do you explain that? Explain that to me. It's like there's algorithms out there watching even our sim trades and screwing with the markets. Oh wait, here I need to this chart right here. I need to scroll to the last bar. Ah, okay. Maybe it's not quite as screwy as I thought. He executed the baby algo, yeah. Maybe I need to change the camera so that you can see him better. Yeah, that is the mouse mat. Yeah, probably should clean that, huh? Yeah. Here, can we take this off? That button turns it off. And they so if you want to tell me something without the internet here. Yeah. Can you say bye bye bye? No. Can you hear he's really frustrated that this trade isn't profitable yet? Oh, you okay? Let's not touch the keyboard. I would prefer to not touch the keyboard, okay? He's clapping. Come on, set it. I have no reason to think that the S&P 500 would sell here, but I would really appreciate it if it did. Sorry, if the treasuries would sell here. For prosperity. I want him to be able to watch this in 20 years and be like, oh yeah, there was my first trade. It did work out. No, it doesn't look like it is, man. It's bouncing back up so far. We'll leave it until the end of the stream at the very least. There's kids that are going to be trading natives. let a child stare at price action and then give them account when they're 4. What was that? Oh, it was the E-mini. Okay. So I heard a few clicks. Okay, here she is. I'm gonna leave it on. I'm gonna leave it on. She took the baby. I'm gonna leave it on. For all the advances in machine learnings, I don't think you can beat an infant. Well, you know, the whole thing comes back down to this idea that like the order in which you train things and stuff matters, right? So, I think that being able to, you know, having an understanding of what's going on underneath of the covers would be kind of important in learning to read order flow. I don't think that you could just watch it and, you know, get a benefit out of it. In fact, I think a lot of traders do that and then have these wrong ideas about the markets, and it really like actively causes them harm because they come out and they're, you know, like early on, I think I did that where I would have a read about what I thought the order flow was doing. It was just like so dead wrong, right? Okay, something is going on here. There was an offer at 12, moving around. It's moving it down. What the heck? Come on. I don't know. For Ethan's trade to work out, it's going to have to be move a lot further than that. But that certainly helped. That certainly helped. Dude, he like clicked on a chart and totally screwed it up. So my ZN chart is all messed up. This is like selling really hard all of a sudden. This was really weird. And there was like a bunch of clicks when it happened to. Okay, Ethan. Wow. Oh my gosh. I can't believe that actually happened. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's, we have to put that in there. It's the title. Baby Ethan places his first profitable trade. It was just a sim order, just to be clear. It was a sim, but man. That was some pretty aggressive selling flow that just came in there though, man. I'd like to think that somebody over at one of the big institutions was trying to do a solid one for Ethan and was like, well, you know, we had to sell anyways. We might as well do it now before the top of the hour so that we can have the funny video. But I suspect that there's more to it than that. And I'm kind of wondering if there's like a bank headline that's coming out. I don't think I've seen like a bank headline where, you know, it caused like really strong flow that was selling in the treasuries. So that's really interesting. But that's like just about the only thing I can think of that would be causing that kind of like behavior, you know? And I fix my charts over here. This is driving me crazy. Looks like I picked the wrong one. Okay, I don't know. This is really interesting. Man. I think I'm still gonna say that the flows are a little bit. I mean that flow to the downside was pretty good. I'm gonna say this action still didn't look like very good flows for us, but it does look like something may be happening. I'm really curious to see what could be driving that kind of selling. Debt limit negotiations from the House, Senate, and White House will meet together at 12:30 p.m. in the Capitol. About 4 minutes ago. I'm going to say that it happened about 3 to 5 minutes ago. Fed's Kashkari says tight monetary policy may be needed for a, quote, extended time. Great British Pound having a move. Japanese yen going there. I wonder. Significant pullback in the dollar. That doesn't seem to be correlated with it. The E-mini bot. I don't know. It just is kind of like this freak order flow out of nowhere. All that said, though, like that was like a really strong order flow and it moved quite a bit. Ethan Straight only needed 5 ticks profitable, so like it took quite a bit of selling for him to get anything, right? Like it's not very interest rate sensitive right now, the market. Toxic order flow. I don't remember. I think that, a lot of the times when we're talking about words like that, it's kind of has more to do with the context and what we're using it, right? Like that was a conversation we were having earlier. So I was like, okay, here's like what I would consider a struggle session. Okay, well, there's certainly some awful things going on, but that we haven't quite seen that, and I'm concerned that we might, right? There are some terms though that I am kind of like there should be, it would be useful to people for them to be strict definitions of them, right? But like, I think that they kind of look at it as like toxic order flow is like order flow that's bad for the market maker to take fills on, could mean a couple of different things. Whereas what we got going on right now, this could be informed traders. I mean, there's a high probability that was informed trading, but we're not the ones that are informed at the moment. I'm not seeing any headlines or anything. Sorry, when you say BBO, do you mean the best bid offer compared to the rest of the order book and derived from that how the marginal trader feels in this environment? I would say it sure seems easy for them to tick up and down relative to the amount of liquidity that's out there, isn't it? So I think what you're trying to say is that some market makers are pulling a lot and are a little hesitant to take fills. That certainly does seem to be the case, doesn't it? But we did see, how much was it? We saw about 5,000 contracts sell. No, I don't know. I'm going with somebody decided to sell just so that Ethan could have a profitable first trade. I'm not really like coughing a lot, but when I do, the stuff that comes out of it is really gross. Hope you can't see that. We can still see you coughing. We might as well get the whole entire experience now. We'll blow your ears out, probably. Public approval of Powell hits new low, worse than any Fed chair in 20 years. I probably shouldn't like dive into this thought, but what if in the summer of 2021, Chairman Powell said, or not even, let's say fall of 2020, Chairman Powell said, well, I know the pandemic is not over, but you guys have put too much money into the economy. The stock market is doing really, really well, and we need to start raising interest rates now. Regardless of what risks we see out there due to the coronavirus pandemic, right? What if he had done that? Okay, so first of all, maybe the inflation wouldn't have been as bad, right? Because we would have come down on it and we wouldn't have had like this mania that we had, right? But at the same time, wouldn't he have gotten like totally eviscerated? Like the politicians would have flipped their lids if he had started raising rates when they probably should have, right? I don't know if there's anything Chairman Powell and the Federal Reserve could have done to be like on the public's good side right now. You know what I mean? That's what drives me crazy about it, is that like the Federal Reserve's approval is low because there's high inflation. I'm not saying that Congress's approval level is high, but the low approval that you're seeing in Congress isn't because people believe that they're responsible for inflation. You know, like I feel like that politicians are getting off scot-free on it. What if you said you only live once and dropped rates to zero again? Buy all of the things except for the dollar. Yeah. I'm curious to see if we're going to get another strong sell come through here. It might happen after the session is done, but I want to see if there's more to that flow or not. But if it was really just somebody, you know, they had the flow and they decided to give it that then for Ethan, then thank you so much. I don't think that's what happened, but I think it's more funny to think that that's what happened. Okay, it is time for me to get going. I will see you guys tomorrow. Man, it's Friday. It's gonna be Friday tomorrow. This is a quick week. See you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.